and welcome to the CRM Zen show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 158, Brett's Tinfoil Hat, recorded on Friday, August 6th, 2021. From Zenata Consulting, I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
As always, we will start with the latest news and events. And if you wish to find them, you can head on over to zenata.com/events. We're going to be doing our CRM Plus webinar 2021 overview and best practices on Tuesday, August 17th at 10 a.m. And then there's several events from Zoho coming up, do-it-yourself mobile apps, Zoho One to Go, introducing Zoho People Plus, or is that us? No, that's someone else. Look at that. Good stuff. So anyway, we've got some good events coming up. We try to find them. It seems to be a slow time of year for events, though, Tyler.
It seems like it. Summer months. It
seems like it's died down a little bit here. So, all right. And with that, let's get right on into the news. And unlike last week, we've got a lot of stuff. So we'll start off with Zoho Sprints has now added 3 new custom fields, percentage, lookup, and currency. Useful?
I think so. I mean, it never hurts. Maybe you want to add some custom fields for the cost of a task or percent completion, something like that. Being able to add lookups never hurts to connecting different records together. So nice few updates there with Zoho Sprints. Not honestly an application that we use too often, but one that we hear mostly good things about. So never hurts to have some additional field types.
All right. And then moving on, ZeptoMail adds email templates. I guess they found those in the closet. And we've got that over here with ZeptoMail. So if you're not familiar, ZeptoMail used to be called Transmail. It is a product that is for mostly developers. And if you're building an app and you want to handle basically the transportation layer for your emails, where you're sending common things such as password reset, welcome, verify, invoice reminder, all those kind of things, anything which would kind of be an automated email, you can do that using ZeptoMail. And it's actually a great application, but now they've added templates. So if you're a developer, you don't have to build them from scratch. They've got some basic ones that you can go ahead and use. And I would imagine pretty darn helpful.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the CRM where they've got a whole bank of templates that you can pull from as you're creating a new email. Similar thing here, grab one of these, make some edits to it, put your branding on, and then you'll be good to go. Just start sending those out.
All right. I don't, it's one of those applications we just haven't really had an opportunity to dig into, right? Because it seems like all the custom stuff we're building would be Creator, and that's actually handled by ZeptoMail, but it's built in, right? You're not going into a separate application or going into that. So, all right. And then Bigin has a roundup of all of their August updates. I love this Zoom meeting integration for Bigin. You have this in the CRM. It's kind of crazy. You've got native Zoom integration in CRM, native Zoom integration now in Bigin, but no native Zoom integration in Zoho Calendar. It's crazy. Because I have a feeling that's where you'd want it. So nice. Anyway, if you're living out of Bigin, you're setting your meetings out of there. Very, very good stuff. It's not using Zapier because there is, I should say, is it Calendar or Bookings that's using
Bookings?
Zapier?
Bookings will use Zapier.
And Calendar just doesn't have anything right now. So that's got to happen. And then HIPAA compliance comes to Bigin. And this actually happened. We got this in CRM, what, a month or two ago?
Just about, yeah.
Yeah. And then I think we covered this before, the import and export contacts directly from your mobile phone. You can just put them right into Bigin now. So nice improvements to Bigin. It seemed to go quiet for a while, and now we're getting a lot more.
Yep, kind of roaring back to life here on development.
Yeah. Do not get a good night's sleep, Tyler? You seem a little sluggish this morning.
I think both of us are a little sluggish today. I don't know why.
Hey man, I don't even know. I don't even wake up in the morning and say, did I get a good night's sleep? I don't care how my body feels. I just go to my phone and I look at it and it tells me based upon my watch if I got a good night's sleep. And then my entire day is based upon how the phone says I slept,
Placebo effect a little bit there.
It's gotta be. So it says I got the best night's sleep of the week right now.
Got it.
It's funny when I first got the watch, the default settings on the Apple Watch are it says time to breathe, right? Time to
Mhm.
stand. My father's in his 80s and my watch is going on. He's like, what that ago? It's telling me it's time to breathe. Oh, you need a watch to remind you to breathe. Like, well, I don't know, Dad. Oh, anyway. All right. So moving on with the news. Zoho Sign revamps add-on pricing. All right. So Zoho Sign, if you manually do things, there's no additional charges. So basically, if you just go into Zoho Sign, send a contract out, it's all good. It's all included in there. Most of the automations have been broken into a few different buckets. You had APIs. What
You
was
had
the other one?
SMS were the big two. Now they've kind of joined those into one just master crediting system. So really from a cost perspective, this is not going to change much. It's basically just that, rather than, using one credit for this and one credit for that, they've assigned some relative worth to these different actions and consolidated the credits. So overall, I think not really much of a procedural difference. You just don't have to buy two different sets of credits now. I don't think when I looked through this earlier, it doesn't appear any pricing has really changed. They've
Well,
just changed
SMS
the
has come
unit.
down. SMS has come down a little bit.
Got it. So a
It's
little
from
bit less
20
now.
cents to 5 cents. I don't know how, I don't think we've ever used, I mean, the big one we're always using is the API credits, right? Which have been
Yep.
50 cents, which everybody complains, oh my gosh, 50 cents, but it's cheap.
Comparatively to, a DocuSign or Adobe Sign, yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
cheap.
I mean, if DocuSign, the cheapest you can get, like $1. They call it an envelope. It's like $1 an envelope to do this kind of automation. So, and it works exceptionally well. And I love Zoho Sign. So I think this will simplify things. It was broken anyway, no matter what you bought. If you're buying API, it would say your workflow credits have been added or something like that. It
Your
was,
SMS
or
credits have been
your
added.
SMS credits. Yeah. So anything you bought, it gave you the wrong message every single time. I think I reported that for over a year. It never changed. But so hopefully this, at least this will fix that error message now,
There we
right?
go.
They'll probably had to have revamped that anyway. All right. And then Writer added some improved editing tools. Kind of nice. If you type in a number, it's going to put a comma on it. If you're writing in Arabic, evidently it used to, when it would write it left to right, right to left, it would actually reverse the numbers. It won't do that now. I'm not sure that's a feature enhancement or like a bug fix. But you also can kind of handle the overall style of your documents and your navigation panels. And I don't know. I love Zoho Writer. Every time they do something like this, I think it's a super, super nice fix. Did you go through any of these?
Yeah, I like that they've allowed you to move the little editing bar around. I know for some people having it in that pop up on the left is just a little bit of a sticking point. Not a big fan of it. So I like being able to choose where you want these different things laid out on the page so that you're able to, kind of match the workflow that you prefer to use when you're putting together a document.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And I know there's a lot of kind of love-hate relationship with some people in Zoho Writer, and I think it just goes back, I guess if you're using Word or whatever, but I don't know. I like it. I like it. All right, and then we got some big subscription updates in August. I don't know if person to do anyway. If a person's on a trial subscription, they can now go in and convert it to live. Which is nice. They can do it themselves through the portal. You also have the ability to send them a convert to live link. So when their trial
Which is
is about to
definitely nice.
expire, which is really a big one as well. I don't think we've ever set up a subscription where it's a trial that then will not automatically renew, right?
But this would
Most of
be
the
in that
time,
case. Yeah, you might want something like this.
yeah, most of the time it's a 30-day trial. And then after that, we're just going to start billing you, whether you use it or not. But I guess in those cases where you're doing this is kind of a necessity.
Yeah, the
So,
nice thing about giving you that placeholder link for the convert to live is that you could set up a workflow to automatically start sending these out when a trial is getting close to completing, and just give them an easy way to make that upgrade without having to route through your customer service or billing team to do that on their behalf. So definitely
yeah,
nice.
very good. And then moving on here with yet more news. We got the July inventory community digest. I went through this. I'm not sure there's anything in here. This is over, if you go to Zoho community, this is the digest they put out. Was there anything in here we missed over the last couple of months?
I don't think so. I mean, really, this is just that roll up of all the historical things that they kind of went through over the past month. Yeah, I don't think we missed anything too big out of this. I gave it a quick view as we looked through it. One of those products that does have its quirks, but is continually getting better and better. Hear them highlighting again, please move those auth tokens over to OAuth. Everyone's been getting those messages here for the past month or so.
You can't get rid of them. Well, the big problem is that one of Zoho's apps is using it, right? And it keeps coming up saying
their default functions use them.
Their default functions, right? So they need to know to change their default functions over by August 30th. You would have thought they would have switched it, so they come up. But that we went through that with the CRM too. Remember?
Yeah.
You could everything would be claimed, but there were some default functions that hadn't been switched inside the CRM yet. But anyway, good on Zoho inventory, and then Zoho Books got some updates as well. UK, Germany, just kind of some big ones for there, but a big one kind of buried past the lead here is you can now integrate with Bigin, which is huge.
Very interesting. I wonder if you can integrate with Bigin and CRM at the same time and what that would do. If you made the holy trinity there and connected CRM to Bigin and then both of them to Books.
This is what.
There's the note. You can only do one or the other. Yeah, that's a little interesting. I would imagine for anything related to billing, you'd probably want to be in the proper CRM rather than the lightweight. But maybe if you're just a Bigin user, could add some value just being able to sync that and do your invoicing this way.
Yeah, I got to think that's it. If you're just using Bigin, if you've chose that as your CRM, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then there you go. Bigin is getting, I don't know. At first I thought, okay, this is the sales team. It's the light version. It's out there. Then there's a part of me that's thinking, is this just the Zoho CRM version, 2021, and they're just slowly building it out and adding all the features and kind of building a whole new CRM from scratch here. And then eventually they're going to deprecate CRM. I don't know. Is that the evil plan? I don't know. I don't know. Or the good
Put your tinfoil hat on.
I've got theories. All right. And then minor things here. If you are in the EU or Australian data centers, there is going to be maintenance. The Australian data center is scheduled for August 15th from 8:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and a week later at exactly the same time. This is an annual maintenance. I think they change the oil, check the fan belts, clean out the air filter, rotate the tires. Is that what
Something
happens?
like that? Yep, just about.
Is that how data center maintenance works? I don't know. Is there something anybody know? I think that's all you do. And then we've got the same thing going over in the EU as well on exactly the same days, but at different times, 3:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. CEST. Central Eastern Standard Time. Normally that's GMT when you're in the EU, isn't it?
Maybe Central European Standard Time.
Oh,
that'd be my guess. If I'm a betting man, that's where I'd put my money.
All right. Well, maybe the chat room can help us out there. I don't know. Anyway, so little public service announcement from there for those of you in the EU or in the Australian data centers. All right, Tyler, and that brings us on to the implementation of the week.
Yeah, so this week we're talking through one that we built just within the CRM. So this is kind of just a one app implementation. This one we've done in many different shapes and sizes, but we did it recently here, so I thought we would go ahead and cover it. It's basically building what I call a loading module. You could call this a lot of different things, staging, anything in that vein. And basically it's to solve a problem of running complicated imports. So the CRM has a really robust import tool to create and update records, right? Just when you're importing spreadsheets. But sometimes based on just those rules, it's not quite enough. Like let's say, for example, I only want to update a record if their email and another field match what I have in my spreadsheet. right? Or I want to update that record based on the import. And then based on some rules, I want to create some child records with the other data. And so, sometimes you can back into how to do these with just a standard import. But sometimes it just becomes a little bit too much where you get nervous that if I'm just trying to use this default tool, I'm going to miss something. I'm going to overwrite data that I don't want to. And so what we do in those cases and what we did here is we basically built a loading module that is set up just to contain all of the various fields that you need to capture the columns inside of that file. You can make this pretty flexible. If you have multiple different files you want to run through, you can basically, add a type field and make sure that the system knows which type of, loading record this is to run the function. And then once you run that import, now that you can actually trigger workflows on imports, you go ahead and check that box. You trigger a deluge function that basically runs to map all of that import logic that you might not be able to do with the standard fields. So it's basically just rather than using their tool, you just do a raw import into a module in the CRM and allow it to do the work in deluge and get all the data where it needs to go based on a more complex set of rules. So these cases, it's really a lot of the time you don't need to do it this way, but sometimes you might need to say, hey, I want to search on email. And if I don't find email, I want to search on phone. And if I don't find phone, I want to search on a perfect first and last name match, right? And something like that, you just wouldn't be able to do with the standard import tool. So it's kind of just a little use case here for the power of deluge, right? Inside the CRM is that, if you ever can't get there with a piece of standard functionality, you can likely brute force it one way or another, with a little piece of deluge code.
Wow. So let me get this straight then. Basically, one module with just a ton of fields that could be for accounts, deals, contacts, leads, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything gets dumped on there. And then we're just using functions we're not importing, using functions to create the new records, update existing records or whatever.
Exactly. So you might have a row, like let's say you're pulling data from another third-party system. And let's say you just don't have control over what that file looks like, right? You get the file and you have to work with it how it is. Well, sometimes like the way the data is formatted in a spreadsheet just makes it incompatible to get it to the right place in the CRM. And so you have two options. You can either blow up the spreadsheet and rebuild it in your spreadsheets, or you can just load that raw data in and let deluge do it, right? As long as the deluge knows what needs to go where, how are we going to find a match to do an update, and what types of records need to be created and updated.
So deluge could even go in, we'll call it your loading module. So once everything's dumped in there, it could go in and reformat the fields, make the phone numbers proper.
Yeah, proper case everything.
Yeah, could do all the validation before it does the quote unquote import and writes everything over. So then are you then deleting the loading module records or just marking them as done? And,
you can. What we'll oftentimes do is we have an outcome code on it. So basically, depending on which update or create an action actually gets called in the function, we'll write back to the loading record with like an outcome code. So for example, if the function is supposed to update a contact and either create or update a deal, right? As those actions are happening, I'm adding those values into a field that goes back to the loading module. So then you could look at those loading records and go, okay, 95% of them went through, created a contact, created an opportunity. These little handful here don't have the opportunity updated filled in. So, what happened with these, records, and do we need to manually resolve those issues? So generally, I don't delete them right away. I'll put some type of outcome back into them so that you can review what happened and make sure everything goes where it needs to.
And I like that. So if you're doing it that way too, because one of the things you can't do on an import is write to the notes field, right? You have to import all the contact information, then you have to do an import to notes. So if you're doing it this way, you then also could then automatically write to the notes field on a single import, right?
Yep.
Man, I like that. I'd like to do that for us because, we've got as all of our information comes in, people tell us what they want to do. It comes in just into a description field, but I'd much rather have in the notes field. And I really don't do a double import. I'm too lazy. It's actually all being written automatically when it's created. That's kind of an interesting concept. How many clients we do with that for, Tyler? Where have I been?
It's a handful. I mean, it's one of those things where, again, if you can do it with the standard import, we don't recommend doing it this way. And Zoho's tools are pretty dang good, right? And oftentimes you make an extra field or two in your spreadsheet and it works perfectly. And there's no need to go down this road. But sometimes it just doesn't work that way. And you just have to brute force it with a code that can just basically have more if statements than your standard import can.
Well, Cody's saying this is a pretty hefty implementation. It is, I would imagine, but you have a lot of clients where there are too many people. I think one of the big problems is too many people get access to import. And man, oh man, oh man, oh man, it just gets junked up real quick, right?
Yep.
I mean,
all it takes is one person doing a create only without an update, and you've duplicated an entire batch of records.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big safety valve on keeping your data clean, if nothing else.
Yep.
How many hours on average to implement this?
Oh, it really depends. I've done these where
5 to 20.
Yeah, I've done these where it takes a couple hours. I've done these where it's still an ongoing project that we're continuing to tweak and, error proof and validate against. So it's a wide range. With more simple ones, if it just needs to be some cleanup and get a couple modules at once, just a few hours.
All right. Perfect. Let's move on to this week's reads. I love that. I want to talk about that later on, though, Tyler. Get some ideas. So I like this. This is over at Diginomica. And this is leaders have lost control of the office. They need to realize choice is key. And I kind of want to put this out there. We're actually going to kind of do a Twitter post on this later in the week. And if you follow us on Twitter, I'd love to see your comments on this as well. But I don't know, as I've been following this entire debate, Apple's like, everybody's got to come back to the office. No, Delta variant, nobody has to come back to the office. Big article on the Wall Street Journal this morning that I was reading about, law firms, which normally have a very, what did they call it? Law firms have an interesting culture, evidently, at their offices, an aggressive culture, if you will. Maybe that whole culture has been destroyed. And I don't know if choice is key. I mean, I get it, but there are some things where you got to come into the office. It would seem to me there are, where just people do need to come into the office. But I do think that the bulk, I don't know, for me, maybe 70, 80% of the jobs probably could be done remotely if it's office work.
Yep. And I think whenever I see surveys about this, it seems that the general preference is you've got a small percentage of people that want no time in the office, a small percentage of people that want all their time in the office, but the vast majority are in that bank of like, I want 1 to 2 to 3 days in the office a week and the opportunity to work remote, as needed. So it's interesting. I think a lot of different companies are going to have to try to match, the types of people that they're looking to hire against what type of work that person wants. Cause, no two people are the same.
No, and it's an interesting thing. I think some training needs to go around work-life balance. I spent big bulk of my early life I was in insurance, and I ended up owning an insurance agency. But that whole beginning part of my life, and I remember talking to you had two people. You had the people that were lazy because they're working from home and they were out in the field and they just didn't get things done. And then you had the workaholic part, right? Where since you're not going into the office and since you're not 9 to 5, it's this constant, when does work stop and end? I found that most people went to the workaholic side of things, right? And you kind of get the old dogs in the office sitting us young pups down saying, now you got to have work-life balance. You can't work 24 hours a day. You've got to really balance that kind of stuff because it'll get away from you. Now, our culture with email and texting and phones has really gotten out of control from a work-life balance perspective. I don't know. Does this just take it to the whole next level in a way? I mean, productivity goes up, but at what cost kind of thing?
Yeah, I think you have to be pretty defensive. Like I made the change a little while back where work email no longer buzzes my phone. I can check it if I need to, but I don't get notified by it. After making that change, made the rounds at Zanata and asked everyone else to do the same thing. If you're at your computer, you're going to see it. If you're at the park on the weekend, do you need to be buzzed if we send out a company email or someone shoots you a ping? So it's tough. I mean, you have to be defensive of that. And I think it's also probably hard. You and I know that we're going to be remote and we've always known that. And so when we look at a place to rent or to buy, we plan on having a little spot for a home office. But a
Yeah.
lot of people didn't plan for that, right? Because they didn't expect to ever be working from home. So that becomes a tough thing too. If your bedroom becomes a workspace, I can't imagine that's good for that balance.
No, it's not. It's funny you bring that up. I don't know, for at least since the iPhone came out, I think probably a year after the iPhone came out, I don't get notified for texts. I don't get notified for emails all day long. Those are things that,
Hmm.
there's a whole school of thought around productivity, which is set times when you do your emails. You do your emails at first thing in the morning, and then you do them at 1 o'clock, and then you do them at 4, and that's the only
Hmm.
time you check your email. Um, I don't go with that. If I'm at my desk, I'm just, I'm checking in on the emails and going in between tasks and in between things I'm doing. But man, on my phone, no,
Yep.
I don't, I don't need that. All right. And then let's move on to our favorite third party applications for appointment setting. So I didn't know we were writing this one, but I'm kind of happy we did. So this is really all around what do you use to automatically book appointments? We are a Calendly company. We use that almost exclusively. But in here we're talking about Calendly and Acuity, which, by the way, 2 years ago, Squarespace bought Acuity. Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew they bought them. I didn't know they were going to change the name though. I don't like
Well,
Squarespace Scheduler. I think that name is much worse than Acuity Scheduling.
I'll tell you the weird part about this. So Wayne, who heads up marketing and all this stuff around this kind of stuff here, is over. He moved to Germany. And so, he does the website, does all of our editing. Wayne's kind of the guy that does all of our content. And so he's talking to me up at this called Squarespace Schedule. And he types in Acuity Scheduler, and it comes up, it redirects to Squarespace Scheduler. In the
Hmm.
United States, it does not.
Interesting. Okay, so they haven't changed the brand name here yet.
It's Acuity Scheduler over here, but kind of interesting. Anyway, I don't know. I just thought, but anyway, Acuity, another great one, and we've got
Absolutely.
a lot of companies that use that. And then Setmore is also very good. It's kind of the new up and comer that's just kind of taken off, and we're liking it a lot.
Yeah, and their thing too is
So
the pricing on Setmore is very low. It's very
so
inexpensive.
ridiculous. Yeah, yeah, really good. There was a reason we were going to move to Setmore, but there was one thing it didn't do. Was it multi-person? I think that was it, right? Same thing as missing in bookings. I can't remember.
Mhm.
Setmore is really designed for, I would say, studios, hair salons, those kind of places where you're booking those kind of things. But it's a great app. We love Calendly, love Acuity. Setmore's got its place. And I think this is good because we're always talking about how Zoho Booking still isn't ready for prime time. And,
Mhm.
we had an instance this week where one of our clients, against our advice, has been using Zoho Bookings, and it totally foobarred everything. What happened there? It was something bad.
Just stop syncing.
Stop syncing. So people could just book appointments whenever they wanted
Yeah, so
on
you could
top of
just get
other
double
appointments.
booked. Yeah. So
Yeah.
not ideal for when you're using
Yeah.
appointment setting software.
Yeah. But I would say the big two here are Calendly and Acuity.
Yep.
And we're taking a look at, and if you do have kind of that studio environment, take a look at Setmore. Pricing's hard to beat. And none of these have got native integration into Zoho at all. There's a third party
Hmm.
app for Acuity. I don't think there's anything for Calendly, right?
I think there's a third party one, but it's not very good. We generally end
Yeah.
up integrating these through Zoho Flow because they all have Flow connectors.
Right. Or the way we integrate these is kind of completely different in that we do everything through Zoho Forms,
Hmm.
right? So basically, when you go to book an appointment, you're filling out a Zoho form. And then upon completion, at the end of the form, it says book appointment. And it then takes you into the appointment, and they choose their time and date. And then it takes them to the information page, which we're automatically populating from the stuff they put in Zoho form. So that way we're getting a really clean integration into the CRM, and it works out really good. It's also super great if you want to just have one single Acuity, but you want to track where it's coming from. So you want to know, is a person
Hmm.
coming to me from YouTube? Is a person coming to me from Google Ads? Is a person coming to me from Facebook? Well, you're just putting them to a separate form, which is capturing that information on the back end of the CRM, but just filling in the same Acuity scheduler or the same Calendly scheduler.
Yeah.
It's a great way to do that. So I love the implementation we've done, and we started doing that more and more for clients now. So we've kind of gone.
Yeah, the little pre-filled links so that you've got a really clean way to capture it into Zoho, but still one booking experience for the customer. It's kind of best of both worlds.
Yeah, it really is. Really is. All right. And that moves us on to our pick of the week. This is a surprise. So I'm bopping around looking for the pick of the week. Did you look at this and see why I chose it?
No, I haven't poked around with it yet. I like to be surprised by your picks of the week. It's I give my honest reaction.
All right. So this is Google Drive by a company called Go Indigo. Evidently fans of the Blue Man Group. I don't know. Anyway, they don't really have a website. It's just kind of like a, hey, we're developers kind of thing. But the cool part of this app is that it's not the one Zoho built. This is, if you take a look at this, these screenshots, you basically in your Google folder, your Google Drive files, you can sync them, CRM attachments to Drive. You can move files between folders.
Very cool.
You can automatically create a new folder. Anyway, I just thought, what a really cool implementation of a Google Drive sync. I would have loved this when we were on Google Drive, but 6 months ago, we made the big jump over to Work Drive, which everybody should do. Yeah, because the stuff you can do there is amazing. But there are a lot of people out there that we have that are using Google. They've got Google Drive. I personally think the base Google Drive implementation is just no bueno. This is a very good, because it creates all sorts of files and it creates all sorts of folders.
Yeah, it's not quite right.
It's got a hierarchical structure that is just crazy. Anyway, it doesn't make sense. And it's cheap. They're charging you, $50 per year for an entire org. And I think that could really do some good stuff. So very cool. Big shout out to Go Indigo there. And, I don't normally see one. I think, wow, because there's so many of these that are out there, but I think this one's pretty cool. All right. And that brings us to our tip of the week. And our tip of the week this week is basically advanced settings for Zoho Mail. This is the final in my Zoho Mail video tutorial. And so we'll talk about mail view options, compose options, all of those kind of things. And as always, you can find it over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Sonata. And there it is. It's dropped in there. And everything we do goes in there. And we are producing a ton of content. Tyler, I noticed we've been ramping
more and more
quite a bit.
I just recorded about an hour and 20 minutes of Zoho Analytics walkthroughs this morning. So those coming out soon.
Good. Wayne was all over me like, hey man, I'm out of tutorials. I'm like, all right, Tyler's got this week. I don't know what I'm going to do for next month. I don't know. I'm thinking about tackling a bunch of the ad hoc stuff,
Got it.
like the new reporting we were going to do that. Actually, we're going to do a side by side, but it's hard to, but the new reporting inside of, Zoho CRM, which is actually, I hated it, but now I like it. If they could just get rid of that front part, we'll talk more about that later. But actually, I think it's kind of powerful. But so you do 4 or 5 analytics videos?
Should be 4 of them, but they're pretty long.
Okay.
I went a little overboard. So expect some good trainings, but a little longer than some of our previous training videos on analytics.
And they're interesting. And by the way, so we did a survey, I think, over on our community at one point in time here, where we're asking people, do you like long stuff or short stuff? There's all kinds of things going on around here I don't even know anything about. Look at this. This channel we need to participate in our own community. But we did a survey. What did it end up being? Wasn't it like,
it's like 50-50-ish, wasn't it? It's right there.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Shorter videos are better, 46%. Longer videos, let me grab my cough, 54. So we're really basically trying to make it perfect for everybody now over on the YouTube channel. So we're now doing all of the tutorials. You guys for little bite-sized chunks, and then we're pumping them all together into one big thing that you can go ahead and consume it all at once if you want. So pretty cool. So I guess these all the Zoho Mail ones are all going to be lumped together into one big Zoho Mail one here at the end of the day. That might actually be it here. This is it. So my tutorials were short. And so all of them put together now are 20 minutes.
Got
So
it.
when all of your analytics are put together, it's going to be longer than one of our webinars now. That's going to be a good deep dive though.
It might be about an hour, I think. Well, I was struggling a little this morning. There's going to be some cuts. It'll probably be like 45 minutes or 50 minutes in total between the four videos.
So we did our entire Zoho Analytics overview and best practices was 36 minutes. So you watch that and then you get the deep dive.
Yep. A little bit more pointing and clicking. Yep.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. And that brings us to our Q&A. I don't know. I'm reading through here. Do we have any?
Yeah, we've got a couple questions here. Does Zoho Sheets allow you to pull data routinely from books or inventory based on a date or a trigger? I don't believe so. You might need to write a function to schedule them and write them over into Zoho Sheets. If you needed them in a sheet view, you could pull them into analytics and download them from there, but it wouldn't quite give you like a working sheet with live data. But yeah, I don't believe there's any default integration that would like pull all of your books or inventory data into a sheet. Let me see here.
Would it be possible to flag the APAC region or events on your?
I think this is on our own page. Oh yeah, if we're able to filter them for proper time zones, because yeah, some of those time zones, if they're for like a European or Asian continent events.
Well, what we were doing, and we probably need to do, is I don't know. I guess that's not the best way to go. But it would be nice to just filter them by proper time zones. We're actually looking at changing over that entire events module. The one we're using now, I like a lot. But I think, and maybe I need to take a look at it. I think there's ability to say, put everything in my time zone, which I think would be a heck of a lot easier for us to do, right? So then you could just scan it and go, I mean, it might not be APAC, but it might be at 8 o'clock at night on the East Coast or something, right? Or on the West Coast. And you say, yeah, great. I'll still watch it because I'm interested, even though it's not here. So we can come up with something from there as well. And am I the only one that is dealing this? When I get the email that you're starting the show. Oh, let's talk about. Okay, so this is internal here. I click on the link embedded in the email and always sends me to the registration page, not to the Zoom call. I've defaulted to just using the call code I've copied somewhere, just leaving the Zoom open.
Just on our show announcement, we should be able to swap it out.
We send out a live show announcement that goes out. So what I should probably do is put 2 links in there. If you haven't registered, click here to register. If you just want to start the show, click here to start the show.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
If you're already a registered user to start the show, we can do that. And Cody, I do want a sleep app that only tells people when they got great sleep, but I'd want it to fake me out and tell me I got great sleep every morning. So I could go there. Anyway, all right. With that, let us call it a day. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. If you have any questions or comments, please head over to zenata.com and drop us a line.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes, as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. As always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.